Did the egg come first or the hen? Like, who did who to what first?
What exactly does say, you know, slogans like "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free"? What does that actually entail? What does that mean?
Theodore Herzl. He's known as the founder of modern Zionism.
I put it too close to my mouth.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what she said.
Yeah. So, what am I trying to say now? Okay, let's begin. Welcome back. That's some soda. Right. Welcome back to SuryaCast, episode 3, with Pranshu, Rohit, and me. This time we're going video, not just audio, so that you can kind of see us. And we're going to talk about the Middle Eastern conflict. Why did we choose to talk about the Middle Eastern conflict? Well, because there's been a lot actually happening. We've had the Ukraine-Russia conflict, and before we could understand what the hell was going on there, I mean, we've understood it and it's pretty much been settled. We've got this on October 10th, the Hamas attack. So I don't want to be scholarly here. I don't want to be, I guess, very, how does one put it? Academic about it, but how does one perceive this? Okay, how does one perceive this when one just sees, oh my god, the Israel is bombing, okay, Palestine, and so many lives are being lost? How does one put it in context? Because it's very a knee-jerk response, as I said, is it's very easy to kind of like have your heart bleed for Palestine, but how do you put this in context? How do you understand uh, what exactly does say, slogans like "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free"? What does that actually entail? What does that mean? Okay.
Especially for a neutral like us, sitting in India, we can't identify with both sets. So like we just read stuff from news, from social media, right? So we don't really learn anything new. Like we want to find out more, but we have our own biases, and we just kind of learn from what people are saying, and we don't know if that is true. So I think that's the big issue as a neutral.
Absolutely. I mean, there was this video actually that I was looking at, and I mean, I didn't really start looking at this video, but it was something like this. It was called "Did Israel Steal Palestinian Land?" So there's a guy who's actually, I was looking at the video. This is a thumbnail to the right, and he's talking about how Israel stole Palestine, right? And he's giving a Palestinian perspective. And to the very right of that, I see this is debunked. Israel did not actually steal Palestinian land. But the point is that's by the Ayn Rand Institute. And I'm like, obviously Ayn Rand Institute is going to support Israel, right? So that's how you can never really know who's being neutral or who's not being neutral. And how do you sift through all of this and try to make sense, okay, of so much, I would say, disinformation, not just misinformation, right? Because misinformation is where you are wrong and you don't know that you're wrong. You might be like, this is what I heard, and it might be the case. Disinformation is when you deliberately manipulate facts in order to give a certain perspective to people that might be like, oh, this might be the truth, but you're actually maybe concealing certain facts, and you're looking at a lot of disinformation. So there's a lot of disinformation with regards to this. And how do we really make sense of it for someone who is, say, used to scrolling Instagram and being addicted to, how do you make sense of that? Because Instagram is just essentially going to show you images of, I don't know, victims in Gaza.
Yeah.
Right. And it's going to be like, oh, these people are being bombed. And as any human being half decent, you're like, oh my God, this is horrible. This is like an open air prison. How can I support Israel? Right. And then you're like, you look at the Hamas attack, which is a horrible attack. And then people are like, this is justified. Okay. Because of what Israel does. But how could you justify that? Because one of the narratives is that Israel is kind of like an occupying force. You see, it's like an occupying force in the West. It's like it's a colonial entity. And there are people, I've seen people on X, Twitter, whatever, say that what Hamas is doing is like, they're freedom fighters, right?
Yeah, that's a narrative.
That's one narrative. But then if you think of it that way, and if you basically want to think of Hamas as like freedom fighters in the sense I'm going to make some Parallels here which people have made here is like Hamas is like a bunch of people like Bhagat Singh, okay, fighting violently against the oppression of Israel, right? But Bhagat Singh didn't go around raping people, raping British
Correct.
women. He didn't go around putting British children in the oven,
Yeah.
right, and burning them alive. Would that be justified? That would not be justified, right? So, I mean, that's one of the narrative that I again saw on X, and this was a very important question that someone had asked. Okay, would it be okay for Indians to kind of do those despicable acts against the British? What do you think? Do you think if people were fighting, because when we fought against the British, we always, I think, fought a very dignified battle. We never when, like, for example, even when Bhagat Singh essentially targeted any acts of violence, he targeted against the British administration. It's not against the civilians.
I mean, they could have been some things that were probably not, they must have not come out, maybe in 1857 when the revolt happened, we only know one side of the story, right? I don't know. We don't really know what the British thought of it. We don't know what went back home to the Queen Victoria. Saying they must have got information that, Indian soldiers did something unspeakable or something like that. We never know, because at the end of the day, we learn from the news. Our news we get is from the Indian textbooks, right? For example, I was talking to an English friend of mine, and he says the English people are never taught in school about the wars they fought in India. They only know they came in and India got independence. They don't know what happened in between. They never taught. They only know small things, but they don't know about Battle of Plassey. They don't know about all the different wars that they had in India, because they never taught that. So similarly, we only know information from one side. So how much of it, what we know, is actual truth? We don't know. So Pranshu, for you, how has the exposure been like to this news? Like, what have you been seeing?
I mean, from October the 7th all the way till now, the amount of information that has been piled up on both the sides trying to make sense of it, I'm happy. First and foremost thing, I'm happy that I am so and so miles or kilometers away from these sand diggers, This is not my problem, number one. Because
Right.
what they did on October the 7th, whoa, okay. This is what they're capable of. But the retaliation of that is like, whoa. It was like, okay, fuck around and find out. It was just plain and simple. They just keep bombarding. Look, they're going to prove that they didn't bombard that hospital. They are not trying to bomb these children out of existence. And then the other side comes and says, so and so many children died and all that. It's gotten so overwhelming. I don't want to know about it anymore, because it's just about who's more evil, who's more just. But let's see, the problem is so deep rooted into the I don't know, zeitgeist. Do you have a lot of support for Palestinians, in the sense like the youth, the liberal side of people, they see to that as their own problem. I'm going to break these bars and get liberation for myself. So if somebody's occupying your land, which is the case here, they're saying Israelis are occupying Gazan lands and the entire Palestine. I'm going to be just in taking back what's mine, but it has gone to the point where I will do whatever it takes, which has now been cases like what Hamas did on October the 7th.
Extremist action.
Extreme actions. And then certain videos that popped up in all across the world. I'll cite a few, which is, one in New York. Jewish community, Brooklyn has the biggest Jewish community in New York City.
A very lively Jewish community, yes.
And they've stuck posters of kidnapped or killed Israeli or Jewish people. Now you have particularly people who support Palestine. They're coming and ripping them off, which is, I don't know, hold on a second. These are children we're talking about. These are women we're talking about. These are elderly people. Whole spectrum. But what makes you feel that you have to go rip it off, right?
I have an answer for that, but go on. I'll
Yeah, so that's a little concerning. At the same time, I guess a little, the small migraine in the brain says that my people are being bombarded. my people in the sense. You may be Palestine, you might be not be Palestine, but this is stemmed and connected to the firstly to the religion point of view, and then to the liberal point of view that I cited earlier. Okay, if you feel that you're in a cage yourself and you're going to support something of that sort yourself, like break free, I'm going to like get what's mine. That's where I kind of like draw these lines.
I mean, I don't. I mean, I know maybe where they're coming from, or maybe I don't know where they're coming from. Maybe I'm just giving them too much of a benefit of doubt. But I think it goes back to them thinking that the violence of the oppressor is justified, but the violence of the oppressed is justified, but the violence of the oppressor is not. Right? I'm not quite sure if the guys going and ripping off those things, I'm not quite sure if they have this much of brain cells to think about that as that either. Okay, so I'm skeptical of them. But generally, if you could talk about, maybe a Palestinian supporter who's worth his or her salt, who's done a bit of research or something, this is probably, they may not put it in these words, okay, but that is what they will essentially talk about or put forward. Right? That's the case. And the other thing also that I've essentially heard is that, listen, being pro-Palestine is not the same as being pro-Hamas, right?
Yeah.
Hamas could be it is a terrorist organization, okay, and in its charter itself, it essentially talks about exterminating the Jewish people, right? So one thing that can be questioned is whether if Hamas doing.
Wait a second, hold on. Exterminating the Jewish people. No,
Yes,
wherever you may be, if you're Jewish, we need you.
Yeah.
Exterminated.
I think it's written in that you need to make sure that the state of Judaism should be removed or should be removed off the map. I think that is one of the it's written in the book here.
Yeah. In fact, there are people who essentially say that what actually it means from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. It actually means is that they will push all the Jewish people into the river.
So they're drown and stuff. Okay.
So when it's free, what actually free here means free from the Jewish people. That's what the freedom here that they're actually talking about is freedom from the Jewish people.
Okay.
Fundamentally speaking, right? So it's actually an anti-Semitic slur. Right.
So it's a slur. It's not something.
I mean,
it's not as clean as it
slogan.
sounds.
It can be seen rather. Right? Let me put it this way: if one perspective or one way of looking at it, one can argue that it's actually an anti-Semitic statement.
Okay.
Right?
If you go deep, if you dig deep enough.
If you dig deep enough, that's exactly what it means.
But how did this become religious? Like, isn't it just, let's say, borders, right? It doesn't need to be religious, but why does religion come every time into this conversation? It's just two countries fighting over, and then suddenly there's religion.
I would say the moment shit hit the fan on that day, it had to be about like the next day. I was like, okay, when is the time that these guys are going to make it about religion now, and how many people are going to support each other just because the fact that they are from that religion, and just because the fact a lot of people around the world who are Muslims support this.
So
who are not Muslim and who know, like, who've been seen what happens here and there and that, have their own stories about negative side of what they have done. Let's say about 9/11. Everybody knows that this event is done by someone who's from the Middle East and who was a Muslim. So they're connecting the dots over here. And we as Indians, we can connect 26/11.
6/11, yes.
So guys from Pakistan, young dudes, apparently had to be Muslim. So this is like a chain of events. You've got a lot of terrorist attacks, and in the early 20th century, from all the way over here, like most of it is.
So one of the reasons why it actually becomes about religion again is what I have seen. I've seen like Eric Weinstein actually talked about this. Eric Weinstein is basically a managing director of Peter Thiel. If you don't know who he is, a very smart guy. He's also a physicist. Not that I'm not trying to appeal to authority here at any point of time. Okay, it's not an appealing from authority, but it's also fact. I think there was a journalist, also Canadian journalist, I'm blanking on his name, who had mentioned this as to why does it essentially become a religion. Sam Harris. Okay, Sam Harris is the more, I would say, popular guy. I think you guys know him.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So the reason why it kind of becomes about, does become our religion is because there are Quranic injunctions against the Jewish people itself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I know that.
So,
Yeah.
so in Islamic countries, anti-Semitism runs deep. Okay, it runs very deep in Islamic countries. So you have so religion is something that cannot be taken away from it, right?
Yeah.
But again, at the same time, you also have the fight for resources. You have the fight for what people talk about is land. It's a land issue. Palestinians feel that their land is being taken away from them. And where does this again go into, if I have to kind of do whatever research I've done, by no means exhaustive, and nor can I say by no means 100% accurate. And please let us know in the comments if at any point of time
Yeah.
you would like to enlighten us, because we would like to learn more about this. We are very curious people. Is that it kind of starts off with the ancient land of Israelites, right? Which was essentially Egypt, somewhere around Egypt, somewhere in the Middle East, essentially, right? That's where they belonged. That's where they stayed. This was even before. This was even before the monotheistic God arrived on the scene, right? They were. I think Yahweh is the God, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yahweh is their
Yahweh,
God.
yeah.
Yahweh is one of the gods. There were many gods like Yahweh.
Yeah.
Right. And later on, Yahweh became the major god, okay, the divine god essentially at that point of time, and they became the monotheistic god is what Yahweh became. But he had a consort also, and that consort is never mentioned by Jewish people now. Like how in India you have a god, a male god, and then you have always a consort.
Correct.
Like Vishnu's consort is like Lakshmi. There too when it was pagan, at that particular time, they were all polytheistic pagans, right? And Judaism this was pre-Judaism. Judaism kind of came out from there, from those polytheistic pagans, and Yahweh was one of the gods that they, were worshipping.
One of the older religions in the world, Judaism.
Yes, 2000, maybe more than 2000 years old, if I'm not mistaken. So that was the case, and they were basically polytheistic people, and then you had these pirates, at that particular point of time,
Pirates in the sense?
Pirates in the sense people who loot,
Okay.
people who do the looting, people who generally go on sea, right, and conquer lands and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Okay. Fine. Yeah.
Pirates, essentially.
Pirates as pirates. Okay.
Right. And they had, I think, invaded this land, the ancient land of the Israelites.
Okay. These pirates.
Yes, and they were called the Philishtud, which means invader in Hebrew.
Oh.
So the Philishtud came Palestine.
Okay.
So the Philishtud were basically people who were actually, they were not even Muslim at that time, because a lot of evidence essentially has it that they were consuming copious amounts of pork.
Who?
The
Philistines.
Okay.
They used to consume a lot of pork, right? And then they came here, and then they started occupying this particular land. And later on, when Islam had conquered basically a lot. They had after Prophet Muhammad's demise, Islam had conquered a lot, and they had conquered this place also, right? And before that, when that happened, this land, right, had undergone a lot of, you could say, assaults. The Israelites essentially had a lot of how is it called? Attacks from the Romans, from the Assyrians,
Ottomans.
okay, from the Ottomans, yes, from a lot of people. They had a lot of attacks. Okay,
You know how the name you sung, Palestine came? Yeah, that's true. It came from the Philistines. Philistines, yeah. So what happened was when the Romans attacked and they won against the Israelites, not Israelis. If you see the pronunciation, it was not called Israelis then; it was called Israelites. So when that happened, after defeating the Israelites, the Romans, to kind of
add insult to them,
they called it Palestine. Based on that, so it was actually termed by the Romans.
Hold on a second.
Palestine.
So they took their time to understand what it meant, and then they slapped the name right on.
Yeah.
The Romans were purely political. They were the most politically
okay.
ruthless people ever.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Okay.
And
This
it was
bad, dude.
it was at this point of time actually that
Oh, shit.
so the
I'm so
Romans in
sorry.
fact did that.
Yeah.
And then you had I think Jesus Christ also, who was up and coming at this particular point of time.
Yeah,
He was very popular amongst the masses.
It's almost
Like
like
Wait, hold on a second. Jesus Christ came before the in whatever
Jesus
timeline
Christ
we're
was a
talking.
Jew, right? Yeah.
Jesus Christ was Jewish.
Born
The
Jewish.
Jews, then the Christians, then the Muslims, right?
Yeah, it's almost the birthplace of three different religions.
Thank God, dude.
Right, that's how it essentially comes in. Jesus Christ was very popular at that particular point of time. He was hanging around with people, I guess, and saying that I can heal you. He was like a healer at that. There were a lot of healers,
Preacher, healer.
preachers and stuff. But then he, I think, declared himself to be like the king of the Jews.
King of Nazareth, right? He's called. Yeah.
King of he declared himself, or rather, the king of the Jews, and if that's
Or him
like,
or the followers. I don't know who. We don't know the
whatever.
exact.
He got a label called the king of the Jews, and that was blasphemy from a Roman perspective, because I'm the king. The Roman king is there. Some fellows considering himself to be a king. This is blasphemy. And the Romans, like how we punish people by phasi chadana, essentially, right?
They wanted to make a show.
Yeah, the French had
it's not that
guillotine.
they wanted to.
So Romans had the cross.
The Romans had crucifixion.
That's for-
it was just the way of killing any
Oh,
person.
really?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
I
was.
thought they made it specially for Christ.
No. Even the thieves were killed. When Christ was on the cross, people next to him on the cross were thieves, the common thieves. That was a normal way of.
There's a normal way of executing people in
Really?
the Roman kingdom.
Roman
was
kingdom.
by crucifying them. The
So
way,
a lot of people went that way. Like,
yeah. Normal
Ooh,
people.
I
It's
thought
like
it was
how
like-
they
So,
would,
for example,
hang
how-
people.
wait, hold on a
in
second,
India.
dude. This okay might go off topic, but so the cross
Mhm.
was basically Romans just
We
people
hang
didn't like-
people.
Yeah.
Okay. Then there's the electric chair in America.
Yeah, or the injection.
Okay. Yeah. And you have the way of crucifying people in
Or in the US and the Europe, for example, if you were a witch,
at that
you were burnt on the stake.
and
you were burnt at the stake. Wow. That's not a good way to do it.
I thought like they made it especially, they bought the wood and stuff and they made it specially
Yeah,
for
it was common
Jesus
then.
Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
And then he was crucified, and then this had to become like a religion at some point of time, right?
So the Romans who they killed crooks and thieves and all that, and they didn't like on crosses, and the cross becomes something.
For the Christianity. Yeah.
Cross becomes something for Christianity in the sense that the Romans became a Christian empire at the end of the day. They became a Christian kingdom. They were pagans, but then they adopted Christianity.
They killed him and then they followed him.
But then that's the point.
Sin
That's
first
exactly
and
the
then
point.
ask for forgiveness.
If Romans had killed Jesus Christ, and then you tell the followers of Jesus Christ, okay, to vote for the Romans or to give support to the Romans, how would they do that?
Yeah.
They wouldn't. Which is why the conspiracy was that the Jews killed Jesus Christ. The first, that's how anti-Semitism, that's the origins of it.
The conspiracy is created, or the conspiracy is just was floating around?
Created, floating around / now we can't really know how.
Hold on,
how
so,
it was.
so what is true? The Romans killed Jesus Christ?
Yes.
Or
The Romans killed him.
But later on, it was
point.
the Jewish people were blamed for it, because then the perfect marriage of all marriages, which is that between politics and religion, can take place. Okay, and the Roman state can be Christian,
God, yeah.
right? So that's kind of how it happened.
Early age disinformation.
Perfect. True. Yes, early age disinformation. Yes. So yeah.
Continue.
And then these people had to leave. The Jewish people had to leave because the Romans kind of, did what? They invaded them. The Assyrians invaded them. The Assyrians were some of the most brutal people you could possibly imagine. It was like the Kalakeya kingdom in Bahubali.
Okay.
Right. They would if I could tell you just one example of how brutal they were, they would kill pregnant women as well. If they conquered a particular kingdom, generally.
Well, if you're going to kill people, why not? I guess that's what that was going.
I mean,
It's
the
no use to
Assyrians
me
were
anyway.
essentially those kind of people. So, anyways, the ancient land, the Jewish people had actually, they had gone through all of these problems. Okay, at that particular point of time, and they had started to, what is it called?
Migrate.
Flee. They started to flee,
flee.
and they flee to Europe.
Yeah.
And when they started to flee to Europe, what happened is that they had their own ways. They had kosher, which is a strict way in which like how Islam has halal, Muslims have halal. They had kosher. They would not intermingle with anybody. They would keep to themselves, and they would have all of these. I don't know. They had rituals, or if you look at a very religious Jewish person, you'll see how he is. Right, he looks very different with all that. The yarmulke on top and those beads and all. It look very different. So what happened as a result of that? One more thing that happened is that in Christianity, it forbade like lending. You can't. If I'm a Christian, I can't lend it to you.
But the same goes for people who follow Islam as well. You don't lend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, if you lend, I mean, as far as I know, in Islam, you lend, you get the same money back, but you don't take any interest.
Charge any interest. So nobody would lend. What's the point in doing a business if you can't do that? This thing. If you can't get a profit, right? So what would happen is that there was a need, okay, of lending. Okay, it's how economic. If there is always going to be a market need for something. Now, if my religion forbids me from doing it, somebody else is going to come, okay, and fill that gap, right?
The need is there, and they fill the need.
And they fill the need.
God.
Okay, so the Jewish people filled the need. So and they started to. Now comes another anti-Semitic trope, which is that the Jewish people control the money. It comes to this very day. The Wall Street is controlled by the Jewish people.
The media is controlled by the Jewish people.
Right?
The money is controlled by the Jewish people.
Then comes blood libel.
That's the narrative that's out there.
So in the blood libel, what happens? I'll just speak for another 2 minutes and then give it to you. Okay, then comes blood libel. So what happens is that some Jewish guy lends money because he can basically lend it for interest. Somebody can't repay the loan. They will say that this man has kidnapped my babies and he's made my babies do weird kinds of things because he's Jewish and he does all kind of occult practices. And he looks funny and I don't like him. People burn his house down and kill him.
Oh, okay.
And his family. Because again, at that point of time, it's very, very, very easy to start a riot. People did not have Instagram. Now, if you would start a riot, people will be like, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my reels. Let me...
Or the other way around, just start a riot and people start a riot,
There, people probably just wanted to kind of like, I don't know what. This is all speculation again as to how...
It was much easier because the information, right? So I tell you something and then you tell someone something and that person tells someone something and every time it gets intensified. You add your own bias to it. By the end of the chain, you have like 600 people knowing different information. Yeah. And then it becomes too biased by the end of the line that it's easier to form a riot then. Now people have internet, they can check stuff, they can learn on their own. It's still possible, right? They still easily, it still can be done. But it was much easier then because your only source was one other guy telling you. So
yeah, man.
So it's much easier that way. Yeah. Please continue.
Right.
You know what?
Yes,
pause you guys for a minute. Thinking about events. You guys remember when Kanye West actually went off on a couple of Jewish things? Like he had a lot to say about the Jewish community. Like pulled up an Excel sheet saying that check this guy. This guy is the CEO of that. This guy owns this guy, and they're all apparently Jewish. The ones who were marked red were Jewish.
They were marked red?
Yeah, they were marked in the same.
This is what Hitler did in Germany.
Shit, dude. I don't know if it was his Excel sheet or not, but I saw a video where there was an Excel sheet on top of the video and then Kanye was talking about it. But he referred to the Excel sheet, which look at the sheet and which the red ones, they're all Jewish. So this is like prequel of
90% of the rows of that Excel sheet were basically red.
Yeah.
All the leadership positions, the media, the money, the Wall Street companies, all of them. Yeah. Damn. And even similar to that, there is a basketball player called Kyrie Irving, who had another narrative saying that all the Jewish people are actually black, and the Jewish people right now are they killed and sent all the black people out, and the people now are not the actual Israelites. So he started another narrative, and he was suspended for his anti-Semitic views by the NBA. So there's a lot of this stuff going on throughout the year.
There is a lot of latent anti-Semitism in the West, in some sense or the other.
Yeah.
Okay. Some way or the other, it kind of like rears its head and it shows itself. Okay, in some manner or the other, like you were talking about.
But we're very sneaky of them to be owning a lot of stuff, and which we
Yeah. So basically, right, they
use on
escaped
daily basis.
anti-Semitism at home or the invasions at home. They came to Europe, settled in Europe, and then they started facing Semitism in Europe.
So that's because of the Dreyfus affair, okay, where I think it's a French man who was accused of spying for, I think this is World War
But for the opposition against the France,
against France.
it was false information, but
false
they
information.
used it. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, hold on a second. There's something else popped into my mind. Firstly, I heard from my mom. I used to like listen to all what Mossad did and all that. They hunt down German guys, brought them to trial, and then hang them and stuff. Or the ones that they couldn't, they just killed them on spot. And then
Mossad, yeah.
yeah, and apparently they have this Iron Dome which has like a bazillion anti-rocket
GMLMs.
things. They make sure that things don't go sideways for these guys. And of course, they're all. If you look at the map, they're all surrounded by those, guys anyway. So, who want them dead? So
You mean Israel? Israel is surrounded by people who want them dead.
yeah.
Yeah. That is
I
true.
mean, I'm talking about the guys in Hezbollah guys, and then
Hezbollah here, Hamas here, and then you have
yeah. So I think they let this one slide, dude. They let it happen. I'm just saying,
It was very surprising because it's Mossad and Israeli intelligence is supposed to be the most advanced in the world.
Yeah.
They know everything.
Like if I were to take a
it's
piss
surprising. Yeah.
and wink on my wiener, they would know how many times I winked on it. That's like one of the dialogues I took off somewhere, some passage or movie. But that's what exactly how their intelligence network works, apparently. But I don't know why they didn't find guys like breaking down the wall and
What I
coming
heard
in
is
with
that,
motorcycles.
Coming in, landing in a parachute.
Yeah.
So you have like Palestinians who actually can work in Israel. They have work permits.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So you can, and in fact, people from Gaza, I think, can actually go and work in Israel, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right now?
The surrounding place.
No, I mean this was
Not now,
before.
but
Now,
yeah,
of course, not now. But then the so-called prison is not as horrible as people kind of make it out to be. The open air prison of Gaza.
Yeah, dude. Like I need to understand this open air prison. And let me just make a differentiation of what this people going people who are in Palestine go into Israel to work is like basically Biharis coming to Telangana to do the construction work. So let's just make it clear. That's how it is, right?
I guess so.
Yeah,
Maybe you need a
like,
pass, right? For example,
Yeah, of
in
course
India,
they need a pass.
They need a pass for it.
But the thing is, economically, it's friendly for them because who are we paying? The Palestinians. So
Right.
take
In
what
fact,
you can.
what
dude.
was a horrible occupation of Gaza was by Egypt. The Egyptian occupation of Gaza was brutal repression of the human rights of the people of Gaza. But anyways, I'm derailing.
Yeah.
As you had actually spoken about that, how did this go? How did this leak? Okay, or something. Is that the workers who came from Gaza here actually plotted this?
Oh, I don't know.
Slowly is what I
I mean,
heard.
yeah, I guess, yeah. What are the odds? You use as much as Google Maps that you have. Plan where you want to go, which street you want to attack, and then these guys did the groundwork for them.
And what's actually very no, because Hamas did this very strategically and very I mean, they did it in such a way that they said that we are not here for peace because the portion that they actually attacked of Israel was one of the most progressive wings of Israel that actually wanted to do a lot for the people of Gaza. They would hire people from Palestine and try to not from Gaza something, but they would actually it was that part of the Israeli quarter or part of Israel, right, who would dissent, because you have to understand that Israel is it's basically a democracy. Right, so there's internal dissent inside of Israel as well. There are Israelis who are essentially we should probably do something about the displaced Palestinian workers. It's not completely correct. Okay,
one of the major points of attack that happened was in the concert, which was called the peace concert for the peace of the region.
Exactly,
and they attacked that.
So they attacked that part of Israel that was mostly empathetic and sympathetic to the Palestinian cause.
So
Giving out a message that, look, We are attacking and killing those people who are the most empathetic to Palestine to send you a message that we don't want peace.
Okay, like explain the psychological point of view to me. Like, why was. Oh shit, man! Like, okay, fine. If this one dude was working in their quarters or under them, actually killed them. Like, give me like a psychological answer. Okay, they fed me, they paid my wages, they made sure I went home safe, probably gave me a loan. But okay, I just pulled a AK-47 on 7th of October and bazooka these guys are interested. Give me like a psychological this thing, like why?
You want to take that first?
And it's just, I think it's just you have all that, but then you have, as you've seen in Telugu movies, the Rayalaseema Paga type, where you have centuries of distrust, centuries of rivalry, right? That's still, I think, at the end of the day, you need one person to turn them over to the other side. You can have 20 years of love, 30 years of love, whatever, but you need one extremist guy to come and say, one Hamas guy comes and says, you need to do this. You know what they have done to our religion? You know what they have done to our people? And they turn. It's very easy that way.
I totally forgot. Like we've also seen those videos what they like all in Jerusalem they make it really hard for Muslims to come and pray at a certain hour.
Yes,
I think those things are very sentimental. If I was a Muslim, I would be pissed off as well.
Yeah.
But not to the point where I'm going to like do that kind of thing.
But it's just everything is ready. You just need to light the fire, and you don't need much in that situation. Because imagine the place has been under siege, the whole place under war for so long. You had the 100 Years' War, the Crusades for fighting for that. You have 3 religions fighting for that. You have whole of Europe trying to conquer it at a certain point during the Crusades. Religious wars, as they called it. Right. So it's been like that for so long, right? People are so used to wars, so used to distrust. You don't need much to, for it to go overboard. So yeah. So so you should always imagine that first. Like, that it's not the normal way. It's not like India or some other places where everything's all okay. Everything is not always, it's always not okay. And it's actually rare that there's peace at this region. Okay. It's always been there.
At this region, there is very little peace. But I don't know if India is okay though.
I mean, comparatively, it's much
What do you mean?
There's less violence.
Hold on a second. What do you mean India is okay?
He said India is okay.
No, I mean comparatively. I mean, for us, for example, Kashmir. Let's say Kashmir. It's been like so much like Pakistan, China, India. It's always been fighting for so long now. Right? It's reached a certain point where no one can trust anyone. People don't trust army. Army don't trust people, common people. You don't know who the terrorist is. You don't know who the normal person is. So it's the same stage. Imagine for more than 500 years, more than 600 years, it's been that.
No, but that's the point even with Kashmir, right? That the exodus that happened in Kashmir in 1987, in the 1980s and 1990s, was the 7th exodus.
Yeah.
It was not like suddenly something happened.
Yeah,
Before
but
that, there were many exoduses.
The history of Israel, Gaza,
hundreds of
and
years back as well.
Yeah, but history of Israel, Gaza has been going on since so long, and then so many more wars fought compared to this. It's and it's like more religions involved.
Got you.
There.
All of this leads me to a question.
Psychological question. Another point that I essentially wanted to make is, if you want to talk about psychology, I cannot really understand that psychology. So I'm not going to even attempt to give an answer to it.
Okay.
But then you also have to understand that is about the human shield issue, right?
Oh, that is another. Whoa, that's some big hole, man.
Yeah, because see, that also is like, there was a guy on YouTube who put a comment like, okay, Israel is bombing Palestine, and he's like, oh, these are civilians. Why are you okay? Because there's probably Hamas in it. It's like, is it okay for you to like go on bombing everybody because there is Hamas in it? Is one narrative, but the counter argument to counterbalance that point of view is the other thing, that war is ugly.
Yeah, of course.
War is ugly, and what does Israel have the right to defend itself? Yes, it does have the right to defend itself, right? If Hamas attacks Israel, should Israel go and do the same thing? Okay, of course not the same thing, but should it bomb? And how does it do it in a very self-restrained manner? It used to do it in a very self-restrained manner, where it would attack essentially some building that is very isolated, right, in Palestine, and would in fact tell them that we are attacking this building.
Yeah, they would give prior
They would
warning.
actually give them prior
I've
information.
heard about this. They're giving information, throwing leaflets from above. Is that what they're trying to do?
The call goes or whatever
But
goes, but that
still-
person are relayed this information so that all the people from there can escape, and then a bomb will fall, but the bomb that is going to fall is going to mitigate as little life as possible. That is one. Second, it's just Israel telling that, look, we can retaliate. We also have the power to retaliate. Don't have this attack again. That's essentially what Israel is trying to tell these
attack
people.
again. I don't think.
Don't do that again, is what it's telling. But you were trying to say something. Please go on.
Okay, so for what you just said, right? Okay. Firstly, the thought that I had previously is going back to the actual the crux of this matter is like, did the egg come first or the hen? Like, who did who to what first?
I think it's long forgotten at
yeah,
this point.
like, I want to know this now. Like, who
Do
the
what first?
It's just it's not who did what. It's just like you were saying, like Israel. It was originally the ancient land where Israel is supposed to originate. Israelites supposed to originate. Judaism is supposed to originate. They left because of constant warfare, invasion, and then the Islam followers settled there. And then during, as you was talking about, the anti-Semitism during the World War
Europe,
One and then World War Two, so they had no safe place to stay. So they and the guy called Theodor Herzl, he's known as the founder of modern Zionism. So he came up with this place. He thought, what is a good place for a safe place for Jews? And at that point, about 3 million stayed in Russia, about 2 million in Germany. So they're all over the world at that point. So he's like, and then he thought back and he said, what is our origin? What is our origin is, where Israelites came from is there, where the Muslims are right now. So then he started trying to buy, right then, during that time, till 1915s, it was completely conquered by Ottomans from Turkey.
Yeah.
That place, right? And what he tried to do was he died in 1904, so he died before Israel was even formed. But before that, he went to the Sultan to Istanbul. Then it was known as Constantinople. So he said, we will give you money, we will pay all your debts, give us Israel. Sultan immediately said, no, I can't do this. So what he did very cleverly, he used Jews, different rich Jews, and he bought lands and organizations in Israel, and that's how it became. They started getting the Judaism culture in Israel back by buying stuff from Ottoman people there. And what he did was, so when you went during that period, if you had gone in 1980s, 1920s. By the time he had died, but they had continued doing that. So 1980s, 1920s, you could see that there's Ottoman culture here, there's architecture, and then suddenly something would stand out. There would be that Judaism culture there, different architecture. And slowly started spreading. And then by then British and France had taken over. After World War One, British and France took over.
They divvied up basically the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah.
With certain portions, basically like Israel, I think Palestine and southern Iraq.
Jordan, southern Iraq, Syria,
Okay,
Egypt.
Going to British.
Yeah.
Going to Britain.
So they had
Something
a
else
term.
went to
So
France.
what they did was they had a contract between them, a deal between France and England. They're like, you take this part, we take this part, and so which is basically what England did most of their I think when survival, like in the world, wherever they see land, British first attacked. They're like, this is ours, this is ours. So they took all the resources. So Palestine, I think then was not Palestine, the Gaza was under British rule, if I'm not wrong, and remaining other parts like northern Iran and other places were part of France. So they had a deal done, and then this was all the Arab world got found out about this deal, and they got really angry, like, oh, what, you're dividing us. And they got really angry, and by then British,
Damn right they got angry.
yeah. So and then they started.
rightfully
Egypt,
so.
for example, started a war against Israel. The other countries started a war, and against Britain. And by then World War II started, and Britain was supposed to give back the place, right? They had to leave the place, and now they had a conundrum, like which place goes to war. Like there's Arab population, there is a Judaism population, Jew population. What do we do? So
And
they
yeah, let's not forget about the Christians who was there.
Christians by then were the British, so they left by then. And
No, there were a lot of Christians there, no? There still are.
not as
Lebanon had a lot of Christians.
yeah, but now I mean at that point it was mainly the British people, because of the 100-Year Wars who had settled there, because of the Crusades who had settled there, right?
Yeah, those guys, yeah.
Yeah, those guys, yeah. So what happened was
So hold on a second. Before the Crusades, there were no pockets of Christian or Christianity.
that's how the Christianity came into. I mean, that is the origin of that's where this Jesus was supposed to come out, but then it didn't spread there. And then it was much later when the Crusades happened, they got the religion to that area.
Okay.
It was mostly Jews and Islam, that was Judaism and Islam that was prominent there. And then the 100 Years War, they're fighting over Jerusalem, who gets Jerusalem. So there are a lot of movies, a lot of books on that.
There are a lot of movies.
Kingdom of Heaven, I think there's a great movie on that.
Kingdom of Heaven. No, is that Tom Cruise?
No, I don't know who it is, but it's a very famous movie on that. How they fought for Jerusalem. I think it was the origin. That place is supposed to be the origin of all the three main religions. So they fought over that, and then what happened was British, right? Whenever they leave, they get this lawyer. They were lawyer for everything. That's how they partitioned India and Pakistan. They got a
The
lawyer.
British did not partition India and Pakistan.
Like
but
they
still,
drew the map. Basically they do statistics, like which has higher population of Islam, higher population of Hindu. That's how they they gave the idea. So that's how they did it for Israel. They said this pocket is Israel, this pocket is Palestine. That's how they divided it, and they left. And Arabs were like, no, we reject it. It was then, it was not this, Palestine was not this tiny thing. It was like much more.
West
now.
Bank, Gaza, everything.
It was much more than now. And they rejected. They said, we own the whole thing. We won the whole thing. And there was a war. Israel won. And there were only 1 or 2 million Jews by then. But they still, they fought back. And all the 5 countries around it attacked Israel, and Israel won. And then they gave Gaza they said, you can keep that is Palestine, remaining we have. And that's how the origin of all this. It was already there. Britain made it worse, and then as they normally do, and then
Dude, these Brits.
they do everywhere in the world. Britain goes, they do this.
I mean, with regards to the India-Pakistan thing, it's kind of like, it's the British they're like, okay, if you're leaving this country and then there's religious conflict over here and they don't want to stay together, it's useful for us. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But the idea of partitioning it was not theirs.
Yeah.
It was squarely,
Once it was decided, then they got the lawyer, and that's what I'm saying. The process of partition was that. Yeah.
And also, I mean, there's so much of violence. Let's not go into that as a
Yeah.
traumatic
It's a
memory
different
right now. It's a totally different thing. But yeah.
Okay, let's come to the question.
Sure.
What is it for India? What is this? This conflict in the Middle East? What is it for India? Why do we have to care about it? We don't have to care about it.
So one of the things
Is it affecting us in a certain kind of way? And if it's not, why is it not affecting us? Because I think what's not affecting us is the stock market. Because if you guys remember when the Ukraine-Russia thing happened, and then we had a dip in the stock market, and then apparently Ukraine has a lot of wheat, and then it has a lot of palm oil. Is it? Because
I have no idea
I was
about
following Adani Wilmar at that point. Adani
palm oil is not
Wilmar.
good. I don't think it's good for health. But anyway, sorry, go on.
Adani Wilmar was into palm oil production. So they went to the Philippines or something. They made like ties. I think this happened right before the war or even before the pandemic. Who knows? But their stock price hiked real high in that Ukraine-Russia conflict.
So where were we?
He asked a question, what's in it for India?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's in it for us? We're sitting here miles and kilometers away, and as I said the previous conflict of Ukraine and Russia, we had a dip in the stock market. This conflict, apparently we didn't have any dip. I don't know
So
if
if
we
you
have
can
any.
kind of put the stock, you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'm
If you
not-
can
I was
put the
just saying
stock
the
market
market.
aside, I can probably give you some small answer, which is, or an attempt at one. Not that it is an answer, but rather it is just it's a speculation you could possibly say of the thing is that there are a lot of supporters of Hamas even in India,
Oh,
right?
of course, yeah.
Okay, I think it's in Kerala. So it what's in it for India is that we are essentially a country. Like, why do so many Indians support Israel? Is a question from a very knee-jerk perspective. Even if they don't know a lot of stuff, not that we know a lot of stuff, but we're still trying to figure things out and learn about this. Why do they just kind of like do that? Right? Or maybe they know better than us and that's why they support Israel. But even if you ask the average person on the street with a very maybe an understanding as how much as we have of this particular issue, why would they essentially say that, I support Israel? Okay. And I think it's kind of because they see, because we as a country are really, really, I would say, at the receiving end of terrorism. We've been okay at the receiving end of terrorism, okay, for a very long time, right? Christianity, not Christianity. What am I saying? China. Okay, China has been a huge problem for us, right? And then you have, of course, Pakistan. Okay, that's been a huge problem for us, right? So you see that for a very long time we've not really been able to give it back, right? Okay, give it back to
Oh, yeah, man.
2611.
Where's
We've not been able to give it back. We're not able to
where's the
stand
eye
our
for the
ground,
eye? Yeah.
right? Because for whatever reasons, politically correct reasons, if we do something, that the world is going to not look at us, and we've basically been very spineless in acting out, and we kind of like see that Israel stands up for itself, right? Even though it is surrounded by its enemies who want to destroy it. We are also surrounded by enemies who want to destroy us. We are unable to stand up for ourselves. Israel does stand up for itself. It has an advanced, very advanced military. It has very advanced technology. So we kind of vicariously live this life, okay, where Israel is doing it, so we love the fact that Israel is doing it and is defending itself. We should also be able to defend ourselves.
The opposite of the liberals, in one way.
It's not opposite of the liberals or conservatives or progressives. It's a fight for survival. How is a fighting for survival
No,
basically?
so basically, what I cited to the liberals, they want to like push the underdog from below, and then bring those guys up, saying ki, yeah,
See,
we are just.
see,
Both are
when you
underdogs in certain ways. So
See, again, let's not go into liberal
Yeah,
and all that, because people use the word liberal or any label for that matter very casually, is what I feel.
Okay.
Okay, it's like throw around the word liberal, throw around the word conservative, throw around the word left or right or whatever. Very, very
Center right,
center
yeah,
left, and,
news things
it's like
just keep popping up.
I think there's a very good statement here that says, I'll give you my positions, you give me the labels. I'll give you my position on a particular issue, you label me, I don't mind. Okay, you label me, I won't label myself rather. So anyways, so that is probably one of the reasons why I feel that that's the thing for India. It's a at the end of the day, it's like a security thing, and we in a knee-jerk way want to kind of like maybe support Israel for that reason.
I guess while you were saying this, we've got supporters of Hamas and and Israel. So I guess one thing we can learn is to catalog the events of the support of both sides.
You have sites that do it very brilliantly.
Really? I mean, the security forces of this country, not as private people who are doing it. Security forces of this country have cataloged the, people who are like, okay, we gotta like look out for this guy, make sure he doesn't just point the other direction and go into this alley and then come back out like another problem to us to the country or the people of this nation.
Okay,
Both
that's
sides.
interesting. Both sides. Okay, interesting.
Because if you say like if the Israelis have a lot of money and they control the money, they control the narrative too, like you just said. So that's one problem, and then these guys are like another type of fanatics who want to like take care of the problem in a different way. You know what I'm trying to say? Okay, I got you guys buzzing your heads. Okay.
No, I'm just trying to reflect upon what you said. And as I do that, do you have something to say, Rohit?
On that, no, I don't know how much I can add on that. But on the Indian, I can maybe, if you want to go back, I can talk about the Indian, how.
Yeah, sure. About that itself, in fact, what's in it for India? Is that what you want to? Yeah,
What's
sure.
in it for India, right? Personally, like you said, I agree with that. Like India is always, it doesn't act first, right? It's always the thing against India is like it only if another country is not never an aggressor. India is never an aggressor. That's always
Because
been
we're a
the
democracy, right?
Yeah, it's always been the even if it's a
Democracies
democracy.
can be aggressors as
Yeah,
well.
US was always the
Yes,
aggressor.
of course.
at
What am I
certain
talking
points.
about? Israel is a democracy. But the thing is, our neighbors are not democratic. Is Pakistan democratic?
It is.
Hell no.
I mean, officially it is a democracy.
Just for the namesakes,
It's
huh?
a joke.
Yeah. So it is a democracy. Like US is a democracy, but it's been like it attacked
Oh, I'm a bomb you first.
Yeah,
I'm a bomb.
Vietnam and
Yeah,
then everything.
Yeah, but then US has got a deep state in the sense that it doesn't matter if it's Republican or Democrat. The character of the deep state is American interest first. So
Yeah,
that doesn't really change.
Yeah.
When I was looking at this
Dollar
thing by-
interest first, I suppose. Financial.
No, right now, because of the capitalistic view. And for India, for example, like you said, we were never the aggressors, right? We always reacted. After 26/11, then we did investigations, which never led anywhere. And the guy who planned everything is sitting in the US jail. One of the planners, not everyone. And then you had the attack, Pathankot attack, which was the first time India actually took action. And then you had the India entering Pakistan to kill certain, camp people in certain camps, which became famous. Only India. So it's been always like that. That is one thing which is true. And historically, right, Israel, because of the conditions that they were always in, they had very aggressive research and development of weapons and anti-missile, which the world buys.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and India's a strategic partner because of that, right? They need the weapons, they need the technology. And because it was the need of the hour, like you said, what was there? The dome?
Yeah, the Iron Dome.
Iron Dome. So because of the missiles.
The thing that goes bzz, 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 the cannon thing.
Yeah, so because of that, all the other countries learned that from Israel, right? The intelligence agency was something that Israel, it is CIA, all that, but Israel's is supposed to be, the Mossad is supposed to be the best in the world, right?
Yeah, dude.
So everyone's learning from them because of the hour. Israel developed it to a certain point that everyone started learning from them. So, and the weapons, the jets, everything, right? So we get a lot of technology from Israel. So we need that still, right? So we are affected by that way in that terms of we still need that, we still need that partnership from the defense point of view. But at the end of the day, we also, in this stage, we also need to support Palestine. One reason being that we have a considerable number of Muslims in our country who are anti, in this case,
A little fragile to
Palestine.
the situation.
So you don't want to disturb that situation. So you have that.
So that,
also.
does that equate to appeasing the vote bank?
Not vote bank as such, but it's just you're not in this case. You don't have a foot in either case. Like you're not.
One could actually make an argument. I'm sorry for jumping. I'll just make this one point before I forget it because my memory is pretty loose. Is that one could actually make an argument that the destruction of Hamas is going to be very good for Palestine.
Yeah.
Right? Because since Hamas came to power, Palestine has not had any free elections.
You mean Gaza or Palestine? Or the both of the same
Palestine.
thing?
Palestine. All of Palestine's actually, it's going to be very useful
So the
for
origin
them.
is Hamas was always there as a right-wing group, extremist group. But in 2006, they had an election. Last time they had an election, basically. And they had two groups. So one was called Fateh and one was Hamas. And Hamas kept getting so much power. By then, it won the elections. And then it went on the offensive and killed everyone in the other group.
Oh, wow.
So in Palestine. And they went into power. And since then, they've been in power there.
And also 70% of Palestinians don't support Hamas,
Yeah.
is what the statistics say. Only 30% of them actually do. So,
You never know, disinformation, real information.
yeah, but then at some point of time, evidence is evidence. And if you can dig deep enough and if we have the understanding, we should be able to know, and we should be able to actually know what is disinformation from misinformation, and how the two differ from information. So that we can get to information. Otherwise, we'll never be able to. Otherwise, it'll always be a cog in the wheel, right?
Yeah. Okay, so I've seen one video, one mother who probably might lost her child. Or
We're getting
somebody.
close to an hour, just letting you know.
Yeah. I'll just finish this. One mother who was probably son, daughter, child died in the the bombings. And she's yelling out some words about Hamas and stuff. And then brothers just
This is a
come out.
Palestinian woman.
Yeah, the Gazan. So the brothers come in and say, shh, you gotta calm down, sweetheart. Not the decorum, not the thing that you're supposed to say. So I guess they're not supporting their own kind. So yeah.
Yeah, that's also.
Yeah, that's
also
the
there.
like,
Right.
yeah. It is like extreme. People don't support extreme. Everyone's not going to support extremism. So, as he said, it's not 100 people are not 100% people of 100% Palestinians are not against Israel. All 100% Israelis are not against Palestine. But at the end of the day, it's the Hamas which started this, and most of them are against the organization, not the countries.
Yeah.
Once Hamas it started much.
Yeah, I mean the
before,
new one,
right? But
the one on October, right?
October attack was a very deadly attack, saying that we are not here for peace.
Yeah.
So, any closing remarks, guys, and what we are going to actually talk about in the next episode for people to kind of like listen to us and correct us and learn and unlearn and have a good time with us, hopefully.
Yeah, we were thinking about what to talk about in the next episode. Maybe we take something personal, something we learned, something, or get someone who has some interest. Or,
Yeah, we were really keen about introducing our friends to you. People who we know who can give 2 cents and bring value to this podcast and to your ears as well. So we will come up with something ourselves coming future, probably do solo episodes. Like you have a lot to talk about, a lot of information to give out there to the world. We'll bring out our friends who are in different lines of work, businesses, organizations, and give their value.
Hospitality,
Yeah.
music,
right?
doctors,
Music,
so many.
Yeah,
doctors.
we got a lot of those.
We got a lot of that in line coming up.
Yep. Just so nobody, just so you guys know, the viewers, listeners, everybody, we are 3 friends from Vidyaranya, and we've grown up with our own, cultivated our own personalities together in class.
Right. We know each other since kindergarten.
Kindergarten friends. So yeah, we are a unique type, and we used to, bring that uniqueness to your ears and the video that you're watching right now. So yeah.
Right. I'll just leave all of us with a question. Maybe we could answer that question in the next episode and then maybe talk about fitness. This is just something that came to my mind. Okay. And just talk about fitness, exploring the fitness landscape, and maybe talk about its relationship to masculinity. Right. We can do the hospitality business and all. Okay. And interviewing of friends.
Yeah.
But this is just another thing.
Yeah,
okay. Because we can have that. So fitness, its relationship to masculinity. But before we do this, we'll try to answer a question that I'm going to ask right now, which is, do you believe in human rights?
No, go back again, because you just blew the mic up.
Blew
Ask the
mic
question
up.
again. Yeah.
Okay. I put it too close to my mouth.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what she said.
Yeah. So, what am I trying to say now?
Question.
Do you believe in human rights? Yeah, that's the question that I wanted to leave you guys with. You don't have to answer it now, because that's just going to lead to 3 more episodes. So we can take that in the next episode and then talk about fitness and its relationship to masculinity.
All right, folks. Thank you for listening. And this is me, Pranshu, Shiva, and Rohit signing off.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.